Hi, today's question has 3 answers, and the third one is a secret that will double the royalties you can make on your audiobooks. So let's get into it. The question that was sent to me today was, how do you convert your Amazon book to an audiobook? So the first thing I'd like to say is congratulations on getting your Amazon book onto the market at all. That's an accomplishment. 80% of people wish to be able to publish a book at some point, and the fact that you actually got your book onto Amazon shows you've made a huge step that most people haven't done. But the next question is a perfect question, which is you want to have it in as many formats as possible. And audiobooks, even though they're not perhaps the most profitable today, they used to be. In fact, I used to make more money off audiobooks than off of many of the other formats. They competed with my paperback books. So this is a fantastic question. But how exactly do we get our Amazon book into audiobook format? This is Chris Baird from selfpublishingmadeeasynow.com. Go ahead and hit the subscribe bell if you'd like for me to make more videos like this one. And check out below, I have my self-publishing secrets checklist you'll find in the description. So let's get right on into this. When I first started publishing, I also started with taking my book and putting it into a Kindle format. And the reason being is because that's the easiest format. Then the next level up is the paperback. So putting it into Amazon print edition, hardbacks in Lulu and Ingram Spark for additional distribution. So these are the other routes you can go as well. In fact, doing them all at the same time is highly recommended. But the one that seems the hardest, that seems, in my opinion, that seems the most challenging, but perhaps can also be the not so difficult to get in place, it is the audiobook format, because it seems like that's got to be the most advanced. And in many ways, it was the most difficult of the series. But once you've done it once, then it becomes a lot easier. But there are still choices that you're going to need to make. And some of these choices, I myself made some mistakes on when I was making them in the early days. But it sort of depends upon what exactly your goals are and also what your budget is. So let's get into the answers. So the first answer to the question is there are several websites you can publish your book, but Amazon ACX is the best way to go. If you get your book onto ACX, which is where Amazon owned company that puts out audiobooks, they will then ensure that the distribution is done through other sites, including iTunes and other Audible. It gets it out to the main distributors. So you can feel very sure that you're going to have it in a way that's going to be easy for you to get the largest audience possible, right? And then there's a couple issues there that you're also going to need to keep in mind. It is that on ACX, if you go limited only to ACX, you promise not to sell your book on other websites, then they will also increase the profit margin. I believe it's at 40%, if I remember last, if you agree to do it just there. And I would highly recommend that you do it just on ACX so that you have that 40% royalties. But that brings in some additional questions, and we'll get into our secret on answer number 3. But on the second, so there are other sites, but I would not do the other sites as long as you're allowed to publish. Now, some people have had problems with their accounts getting frozen and things on ACX. And if that's the case, then you might want to research some of the other sites. But otherwise, that moves us on. ACX is the way to go. The second thing is how exactly do you find a narrator? And this one here is a tricky one because some of the narrators would do the books and they would not be up to the quality standards of ACX. In fact, this is quite common. And so, but how do you find a narrator? Well, it depends upon the money that you have available. If you go right on, and I would maybe in the first phases on ACX, you can put your book up and say, I'd like to find a narrator, and they will have people who will submit. You put out a little bit of your book and they'll submit auditions for it to narrate your book, and in exchange for that you will split 50-50 the royalties for that book. So that means you will get 20% and they will get the other 20%, which seems like a really good deal. And then they will be able to split that for the first, I think it's 7 years is the last time I've checked it, 7 years, and afterwards you will then get the full 40%. And some of the narrators on there are outstanding. They're really high quality narrators. They will audition for your book and you just choose the best one, the one that sounds right, the right voice for your book. Some of them even have add music and stuff. And this was the route that I actually went as well when I first started, until I realized the secret on number 3. And the secret is, if you hire a narrator on Upwork, you can find narrators who are high quality and willing to do it at a much lower price, at a very low price. for just $100, $200, you can get your books narrated, and the narrators on there, who, as long as, again, they've had experience with it, you can make an agreement that they will just keep going until the book gets accepted onto ACX. So ACX is quality standards. Likely takes them about a month to check the book, but they'll come back to you and you go back and forth with the narrator until you find your right narrator. But here's the key. When you upload the book, this time you already have everything produced, and so you will not split the 40% royalties. Again, we're assuming on ACX that you've said you're going exclusively with Amazon here and letting them to sell your books, and then you will split you won't have to split the royalties. So you'll keep all 40% of that, which is absolutely amazing. And this also means then you will get the promo codes that go with the book itself, and you'll get $75 bounty for any time you use a promo code and are able to sell the book. So there's no splitting of any of the royalties that come afterwards. And I can tell you, I have way more earned my money off of the books for where later I did not do it. And the beauty is, since you already have your book on Amazon, there's really very little work in order to get this done. In fact, the narrator, if you do go the first route, like you have a limited budget and you don't have the money to start from the beginning by finding your own narrator, then I would highly recommend it's best just to go with the narrators that they have there on ACX. They will compete for your job. You'll hire one of them, and then go from there. And that costs you absolutely nothing. But you can't start with the audiobooks. You have to have it first on the platform, right? You have to have it on Kindle on Amazon first, and then they'll be willing to sell it. And another final point that's important to keep in mind is that when you're going with using Amazon, that means that your Kindle, your paperback, and your Audible book will all be grouped together inside of the same sales page. And there are people who only like one format or another, depending. And so those are the people that you're going to be able to target here. And so I find it very, very exciting to see, when people come to that sales page, you'll have all the formats in one place. So you're going to be able to see those sales coming through, and perhaps you'll be like me, where you see quite a bit of money that moves right through those audiobooks. So what have you found? Have you considered where you wish to do your thing? Have you tried selling on ACX? Go ahead and let me know, and look above right here, and you'll see other answers to your self-publishing questions. Thanks.